So welcome to this series of videos on the 3 keys to being an effective practitioner. In this first video, we're going to be talking about self-development, which is the first key. So the reason that we're going to focus on self-development today is because it's something that we've become very aware in our own work with students over a decade of teaching that is a key factor in students going on to be really powerful and effective practitioners. Self-development to us is really about being able to look at your own stuff, that's the technical term, being aware of your own patterns, your own emotions, being able to inquire into what's going on for you. And the reality is that as a practitioner, that's what you're asking your client to do. So just from the perspective of being authentic, we strongly feel that it's very important that the student themselves goes through that process too. And actually it's something that it's quite intangible in theory, but it's very clear that clients can really pick up on that. If you're willing to really engage with your own process, your own journey of self-development, using these tools and these approaches, there's something that comes across in that, a confidence, a trust that the client can have in you, I think. So from that perspective, it's strongly important. We've also found over time that that self-development is just a part of learning these tools and approaches. They're not theoretical. Things like mindfulness and NLP, hypnosis, coaching, EFT, and aspects of psychotherapy, you have to engage with doing it. It's very experiential. So inevitably, you become your real first case study. When we're looking to inquire and understand the human mind, human behaviour better, it's inevitable that if we're using it on ourselves first, then we become the first guinea pig, the first test case for that, and where we really begin to understand how human beings work. Because it's experiential, there's also an inevitability to the fact that emotions come up, we become more aware of our own patterns through doing this work. So in essence, there's no way of getting away from self-development when you're working with this kind of therapeutic coaching model. It is part and parcel of doing this work. There's also another aspect, which is something that came more from the more traditional kind of psychotherapy and psychoanalytical models, which is this concept of the relationship between the client and the practitioner. In a lot of those models, they talk a lot about boundaries and transference, this idea of being triggered in a relationship with the client. And actually it's something that just through observation from ourselves as practitioners for over 15 plus years and teaching, there is truth there. Definitely, to be able to have a healthy relationship with your client, you need to be able to be aware of yourself in that relationship. If you're being triggered, making sure that the boundaries are clearly in place. Now, in a lot of courses that I've done over the years in my own training, these aspects of self-development, of self-inquiry, of having time and space to reflect on you to start with, and also to reflect on the relationship with the client, we're really not very explicit at all. The courses can often be quite short in my experience, and there was very little reference to boundaries or becoming aware of having a good relationship with your client, a healthy relationship. So it's something that in our therapeutic coaching model, over time, we have developed more and more as something that we feel is very important. And the way in which we do that is first off just by making sure that there's time and space to reflect. So our course runs over a year to cover all of the modules initially, a weekend a month pretty much. And what that does is ensure that there's space in between those modules to reflect, to take in the material. We ask our students to write a reflective journal about their own experiences with that material, with what's happened for them. And that's a great opportunity for them to reflect. We also make sure that everything that we do, all the modules are recorded so that students can revisit that material. Because when you go through it the first time, actually you're experiencing it, as I say, and sometimes that doesn't allow you to be very objective with what you've just learned. The opportunity to reflect back by watching the material, reliving it, re-listening to it is very important. We also very much encourage our students to come back, and many of them do, twice or even 3 times, to come and revisit the modules. And they comment every time on how much they get from revisiting from another perspective down the line once they've learned so much more. So that's something that we put in place. We also make it very overt. We talk overtly about boundaries, about self-reflection. Obviously, mindfulness and self-reflection really very much go hand in hand. Within NLP and coaching, we're trying to understand our patterns and our behaviour. So we're very overt in helping our students to become aware of their own patterns, to reflect on their own emotions and thoughts and how they're being in the world. We also talk overtly and have modules around boundaries and that therapeutic relationship. And when we do the work, or when we ask the students to do the written work at level 3, which is where you work towards becoming an accredited qualified practitioner, and there's written work and case studies, supervision, a lot of what we're looking for and looking for evidence of is that self-development, that aspect of the student having become aware of themselves, being able to reflect back and being aware of those things like boundaries. So from our perspective, self-development is really key. We've seen it and really developed this aspect of our course over the years because we've seen how important it is to students going out there and being the best practitioner that they possibly can be and continuing to develop. So I hope that's all clear, and I look forward to speaking to you more next time about the next aspect, the next key, which is skills development. Thank you.